Hello there, and welcome to another episode of HomeTech.fm. Jason Griffin here. So happy to have you with us, and I am joined as always by my partner Seth. Seth, how's it going?
Good, man. How's the football world going?
Well, I'm on cloud nine over here, and you know that, I think. Big win for the Broncos this weekend, and super excited to be heading to the Super Bowl. You know, it's been kind of a weird season for them, sort of up and down, and the offense has been a little bit unpredictable, I think, is putting it lightly, and so we're just really happy, you know, living out here in Denver. It's Broncos country. People are kind of going nuts and really looking forward to the Super Bowl. But always a busy time of year for us. You know, a lot of people are going to be rushing to get their media rooms and theaters ready for the big game. So I certainly expect a busy couple of weeks in preparation for that game.
Yeah, that's always fun. Everybody calls up 2 weeks ahead of time after we're 2 weeks backlogged and says, hey, yep, I'd like to get a TV installed and an entire surround sound system. What can you do?
Yeah. Yeah, man. It really is. It really is one of the big deadlines in our industry. And sometimes I tell friends and family that if it somehow comes up, and I say, yeah, really, you know, we've got a couple very busy times in our industry, and one is sort of right before the holidays and right before Christmas, and the other one is right before the Super Bowl. And those are really two of the big rushes in our industry, has always been my experience.
Yeah, back when I was working at Circuit City, back in the day, as they say.
That story always has to be prefaced with a little laugh, right?
Yeah, exactly. The big thing back then was, of course, Black Friday and getting everything ready for like the Thanksgiving games. So I'd have clients come in and buy these massive AV systems, massive TVs, and of course, being retail, it was like, it's all coming back. They're returning this stuff.
Oh yeah.
So
the Circuit City rental program.
Yeah, exactly. As good as it was to make the sale, we always knew they were coming back. So
yeah, that's got to be tough for retailers. I think a lot of people probably do that. The Costco rental program, you know. But anyways, it'll be a fun game. I had a great weekend watching that game. Also got to go visit some family up in Snowmass, which is a big resort here in Colorado. Got to do a couple of days of snowboarding, and it's been a few years since I got out to do that. So that was a lot of fun. But I'm ready to get back here and get back to business.
Yeah, I mean, it seems this last week, a lot of people, a lot of our listening audience probably saw a lot of snow. I saw a couple of pictures from Richard Gunther, like and Dave Zatz. Have you seen their Twitter feeds? They're like covered in snow, like 5-6 feet of snow. Ridiculous. Yeah,
pretty crazy. Hope they don't have Nest thermostats.
Right. Yeah, let's bash on Nest some more.
Well, no Nest bashing this week, and we're going to keep it positive. I know last week was a bit of a downer episode, but I think we've got some better news this week and some good stories that I'm looking forward to kicking around with you here.
Yeah, I mean, and one of them is kind of a quick follow up to the Nest story. There was an interesting little article over on CE Pro about talking about they called it the day the Nest thermostat dies, which is kind of funny, but it was response from home automation centric manufacturers on basically what to look for in a thermostat. And the article's pretty good. It's got a little bit of information from Control4 and April Air, but there's a list on there, like 6 tips for thermostat selection. And if you are going out to get a connected thermostat, I would definitely look at those. The number one they have on there, designed and manufactured by an HVAC company, I mean, the Honeywells have been really good. But the number 2, that's the one you have to look for.
Number 2 should be number 1, right? Exactly. Yeah, it has a common wire. Mm-hmm.
You want to have that C wire, and you want to have it hooked up to a connected thermostat, because unlike your normal thermostat that sits on the wall and runs off 2 AA batteries, the smart thermostats have to have like Wi-Fi or another radio built inside of them that's going to use a lot more energy. And that's what happened to Nest. The little Wi-Fi module would kick in and it ran down the battery because of a software glitch. So the C-wire is what gets you that extra, gets energy into the thermostat without it having to do trickery. And that should be number 1. But check out the articles. It's pretty good, and it's got a number of good points to look into when you're buying a connected thermostat.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's definitely worth a read, and we'll include that in the show notes at HomeTech.fm/96. And go take a look at that. Tell us what you think. Getting into our next story here, we wanted to give another tweet shout out. And this is, again, something that we've been encouraging our listeners. If you're listening and you're involved in kind of the Twitter community, or if you're a patron of the show and a member of our Slack chat channel, The Hub, we're encouraging listeners kind of throughout the week to reach out to us and share some stories or comments or suggestions about some of the stuff that maybe you think we should be talking about. And this week, Mark Childs, who's been a longtime listener of the show, and want to give him a big thank you for that, sent over a story about a product that actually, Seth, you and I think had caught wind of this a while back. I think they've been at this for a little while, and I don't know how to pronounce this exactly. So if anyone from the company's listening and I mispronounce it, I apologize. It's Domots or Domots, spelled DOMOTZ. And it looks kind of like an interesting little network management kind of remote monitoring tool, almost like a lighter, I guess, sort of a DIY version of something like iHeeji, and kind of an interesting looking product.
Yeah, it looks like they have two different services on their website. One is the Pro service, which kind of goes up, looks like it goes up against iHeeji. It says call for pricing, but it's got a do-it-yourself version too, which they have two flavors of it right now. One that runs on a NAS drive, so a network-attached storage like Synology, QNAP, and ReadyNAS is what they say. And then another version that runs on Raspberry Pi and Raspberry Pi Zero, which could be kind of killer because those aren't very expensive computing devices, and they have a small footprint, and they're pretty easy to get compared to buying a $1,000 Synology NAS drive. $5 or $20 Raspberry Pi is a lot easier to come by for most people. But this would be good for remote monitoring of your system, I think.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I'm checking out their website right now. It looks like they will be out at ISE. And if anybody listening happens to be going to the show and gets a chance to stop by, we'd love to hear your thoughts on the project. First thing I think about is, we're in the process right now of rolling out iHeeji at the company I'm at, and it's a very robust tool and one that I'm actually very excited about to be implementing it in our business. And I really think there's a lot of possibilities there. But a product like this that might be targeted a little bit more at the enthusiast or DIY crowd, I think could be great. We've got a lot of enthusiasts in our audience, and I know that it's not uncommon to run into issues with perhaps like a frustrated spouse. You put all these gadgets in the house and you think they're great, but then when something doesn't work and you're away on vacation or on business or whatever it is, then you've got a very frustrated spouse at home, right? And the system's just not working. And I think something like this, these sort of remote management, remote network monitoring tools are really the future. They represent the future of home technology, and having that visibility into your system and the ability to remotely diagnose and troubleshoot and even proactively monitor for issues, I think is really exciting. And it's something I'm definitely paying a lot of attention to.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just kind of skimming through the Domots website as well. The Pro side looks very compelling. I know from experience that iHeeji is very well developed and defined for our industry. I wonder, how many of those features that they'll be able to, replicate, I guess, because this. If anybody listening has an IT background, this kind of stuff exists within the IT world. I mean, it flat out, that's what most of the IT world is. They monitor the system health of the networks and computers, and they can tell if there is a processor or a hard drive on the network somewhere that is having a problem in a computer, and they can go out and proactively take care of it. It really doesn't exist for our industry, except for iHeeji and maybe a couple of other small players, including this one here, Domots, and seeing more and more of these companies come online. I mean, this is great. I mean, I think even for us, in our industry, this is great. But this is also given a do-it-yourself solution for $299 a month. I think that's pretty killer. I mean, you could get out there and monitor your system yourself and see what's going on and proactively fix things before there could be an issue that you may not even know exists.
Yep. Yeah, very cool. Love it. And I guess as you're talking there, I'm actually looking at their website, and you're right. I shouldn't kind of pigeonhole them into calling them strictly a DIY solution. I mean, it does say right on their front page of their website says already trusted by hundreds of home automation professionals around the world. So they are obviously savvy to the market and are looking to, kind of stake a claim there. So interesting product, interesting looking company, and definitely one that I'll be keeping an eye on. So let's move on to our next story here, Seth. And I think this was one kind of struck a chord with me, I think for obvious reasons. And Cedia has, I guess, officially, according to a tweet from Julie Jacobson, decided to standardize on the term home technology professional, which I think has a nice ring to it.
Huh. So a home tech professional. I wonder where they got that idea from.
Interesting. I told you we should have trademarked it.
Yeah. As soon as I saw Julie tweet that, I went straight over to Hover and tried to register HomeTech.pro, but unfortunately it's already
Didn't
registered.
Get there in time, huh?
Yeah. There's a roofer over in the UK that has that domain. So
maybe send him a letter.
Yeah. Please, sir, for $15 a year.
Right. Yeah, this was, I was kind of engaged in a pretty lively Twitter conversation following this. And I think, honestly, all jokes aside and naming coincidences aside, I think it's a good thing personally. I know that there was one gentleman, Tony, who I happen to know. I won't mention his last name. He's actually a Denver guy here, and he was involved coincidentally in the conversation. And I know that he kind of... he didn't really particularly seem to like it. He said, well, what about people in our industry that kind of do commercial work as well? He seemed to think that systems integrator was a more accurate term. My response to that is, yeah, it may be a little more accurate, but it's kind of a mouthful. And I don't think it's a term that's ever really going to take hold with consumers in general. And I really do believe that probably the single biggest job of an organization like Cedia is... maybe second only to providing educational tools and resources to integrators. I think probably the biggest job is building awareness out in the general public. And I think a term like home technology professional lends itself a lot better to consumers kind of learning about it and embracing it. And that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I can totally understand his complaint about it. I'm trying to think about all the things that we've been called over the years.
Well, I've got a list up.
I've got a couple. Yeah. I mean, we can't say them on air, but
yeah. Yeah, this is a family show.
Right. So yeah, ESC was one I remember. Electronic Systems Contractor, integrator, of course. What else you got?
So there was first. I'll start with the boring ones, which were the ones on the list here. Home technology professional. So I should give this a little bit of background. They CE Pro, I think. CE Pro, I'm not sure, maybe Cedia commissioned this survey. One way or the other, they surveyed about, looks like about 1,500 people. And they said, what should we be called in our industry? What should our name be? And the options were home technology professional, which I should mention one with a response rate of 30%. Second percent was custom integrator at 20%. And then it took a big drop down to 12% for home integrator. And then bringing up the rear were terms like just integrator, custom installer, technologist. And then at the very bottom with 5% was electronic systems contractor, which I think was kind of the one they were using for a while.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that one all the way down at the bottom. But, I think the Tony actually in this Twitter conversation that I mentioned a few minutes ago, where he was kind of joking, and it's true though. I mean, he said, well, Cedia, try as they might, they're never going to change it. Consumers are always going to call us like the TV guy. And I had to laugh at that.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I didn't see this conversation, but that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like too late. We've already been branded the AV guy and TV guy by
TV guy and the stereo guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You do security. You're the security guy too. It's like yeah. So maybe Home Tech Pro will catch on there.
Well, I will say that it is a term I feel like encapsulates best what we do. And it is something that I am very strategic about using when I talk to people and I discuss what we do in kind of that sales and business development environment. Is that's always my term of choice. Is we are a home technology company. I just don't feel like calling us an AV company really captures it. And home automation, I don't think really captures it either, because that's really only one part of what we do. And I just feel like it's hard to argue against the fact that really the term home technology, it encapsulates what we do. If it's technology related and it goes in the home, we have at least something to do with it, or we can. And so I think that, to me, it's the most accurate term and the best choice. And it seems like the people who took that survey tended to agree.
Jack of all trades wasn't on there. I would have voted for that one.
Neither were any that we can't say on air.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Anyway, it's kind of a fun story. We'll move on from there. But I think that it was worth mentioning, and I personally think Cedia made a good choice. Moving on from there, kind of staying in the Cedia channel. Big news today out of Control 4, Seth, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this as kind of the Control 4 guy here in the group.
Well, yeah, hold on. Should I ring that bell?
It was kind of a muted ring, which I think is perfect, actually.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, integrated power supplies, guy. I mean, this is amazing stuff we're going to talk about here. Yeah, Control 4 released 3 new controllers, and I'm going to joke around a little bit with them, but they look actually really, really nice, and I think they hit some pretty decent price points with them. They're calling them the EA series of smart home controllers. Now, The previous series was called the HC, which was home controller. Now it's called EA, which stands for entertainment and automation. Is kind of how I saw they were branding it. And they're really focusing and really marketing heavily the entertainment portion of it, because I guess they were saying that most of their controllers are sold around the entertainment of the house, which you and I have talked about extensively. That seems to be the domain of the custom home tech professional. We're the ones who come in and build the AV section up of the home to work just as well as the home automation products that are out there. So Control 4 is really centering themselves around that, it seems, and introduce these 3 controllers as part of this new platform. It's actually an Android platform, so the navigator and everything is switched over to Android, which is kind of interesting for them moving forward. They were using Flash, which I guess is still a technology, but
that's debatable.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they moved away from Flash and started to use Android. That's really been getting to be long in the tooth of the limitations that it was providing dealers. The Android interface is actually pretty cool. They've actually updated it. The Control 4 is famous for what they called traditionally, and they will not admit to this today, but they called it the circle of power, and it was the icons arranged in a circle, and that was the circle of power for the house. But internally, I guess that's what it was called for a while, and then they kind of just said, yeah, we should probably stop talking about it that way. The new interface is like linear, so it's left to right, and has the icons presented that way, which I think looks much better, much more modern, it's hands down much better. So I am very happy to see that.
It was just time for a facelift, right?
Yeah. The circle of power, even as muted as it was on the more recent updates, was a bit long in the tooth, and I think that design paradigm just is gone from the market completely. I'm still not a fan of what they have, I guess, overall, but it's way better than it was, and it is still very simple for someone to pick up the remote, hit the big red button, and navigate on the screen to what they want to do.
Right.
And they're still hitting that nail right on the head.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't want to make people gloss over with too many, model parts and pricing and stuff like that. It doesn't really lend itself well to a podcast conversation, but essentially there's 3 of these new processors, right? And they kind of range from the EA1, which retails for $600 and actually includes an SR260 remote. So that's a pretty good deal.
It's a killer deal. Yeah. That's
considering
a great
that includes the remote.
Yeah.
That's a really a nice, single room system that can scale up, and then it goes up to the EA3 and then the EA5, which it looks like is going to retail for about $2,000. And so, we'll link to the article, and you can go kind of read all the details about the IOs and everything that you get for that. But I think really A couple things stick out to me. I've talked a few times since Cedia about having the opportunity to sit down with Martin Plain and have a chat with him in my capacity as business development director at Harrison Home Systems, and really struck me as a sharp guy, like I've said, and very much the attitude that I got from Martin and from Control4 in general, again, was just kind of stay the course. We know who we are. We're comfortable with it, and we're just going to keep doing our thing and putting out the best products that we can inside of that, sort of structure. And this really, to me, is consistent with what they were saying. And the emphasis on that point of making entertainment just an entry level piece, and I'm not discounting it at all. They see how important that entertainment aspect of the smart home is, and still see that as a differentiator when you start looking at, again, the pure DIY solutions that are coming into the market. Still not very many of them playing in that entertainment, that audio-visual space. So Control4, I think, is smart to put emphasis on that, but also put emphasis on it in a way where it is an entry point for dealers and a way to get the foot in the door, but then making solutions that are scalable and meet different price points, and then can scale up to, a fully connected home. And they really see themselves as an infrastructure company, not just a device maker, an integral part of the home. And I think these processors are consistent with that. They look like a solid offering, and they got them at a few different price points, and I think pretty good price points. And I think pretty consistent with what Control4 is trying to do. Probably, as Julie's article alludes to, not something that's going to get the stock market and investors like super excited. But I don't, if that's the case, I don't know what they were expecting. This is what makes home technology tick, is releases like this, not all the shiny bells and whistles that you might get on a Kickstarter site where 80% of the stuff doesn't even make it to market.
Right. Hey, I've got to take you to task on one of the things you said. Not to get too deep into the model numbers. I think these model numbers are the best parts of these controllers.
Yeah.
They've actually taken the model numbers and they've made them easy to use, because for years we had problems with using the HC250, which was the home controller 250, and of course the SR250, which is the system remote 250. Those new model numbers were so close together, it confused dealers,
right?
Homeowners, everyone was really confused as to why the two model numbers were so close together. Now, system remote 260, that's fine, SR260, and now we've got the EA 1, 3, and 5, which is just basically good, better, and best.
Yeah.
They try and it's basically you get more inputs and outputs on the bigger one, and the other one's kind of a one-room solution, which it would work extremely well for that, especially at the $600 price point you were talking about.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point, and not one that we won't spend too much more time on here. But I do think that as somebody who's often specifying equipment and doing designs, it's underrated when companies do use simple and easy to understand model numbers, right? We don't see enough of that. So yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about that.
One more quick thing that they mentioned, and they mentioned this actually, I watched the little live stream, which was like a recorded video they played. It wasn't really live, but it was a well-produced video and got the message and point out, which is what it needs to be. There's an Apple Watch now. They updated their iOS app, so there's an Apple Watch out now for the Control4 system, which means now I get to go get an Apple Watch because I really want one.
That's what you've been waiting for, huh?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
nice. And a little more to this story, so go check it out. They're boasting a really fast processing power, high resolution audio. So quite a bit to the story, and definitely worth checking out. So go, if you need to find the link, HomeTech.fm/96, and we'll have a link to all the details on that story. Let's move into this next story here, Seth. We had actually found this, and I think it's really interesting. It's a new app for the new Apple TV, which actually allows you to essentially use your Apple TV like a tuner, which I think is pretty neat concept.
Yeah, they're using what most people probably recognize. If you were in the do-it-yourself DVR movement back when like Windows. I think Windows had one. I can figure what they call it, Media Center or something.
Yeah, I remember. I don't remember if that's a name, but I do recall Windows having that.
Yeah, it's hard to remember. Like I remember, what was it, Life Size or something? They had that.
Yeah,
that
Richard Gunther surely is listening and will. I'm sure
cringing.
Will.
Yeah,
smacking his head. Richard,
Yeah.
I'm sure you're listening. Send us an email. Maybe give us some background on that if you have a minute.
Yep. So they're using this HomePage. I guess that's what it's called, HomePage network tuner. That you can put in. It's called an HD Home Run product, and it's a simple TV tuner that will just pick up broadcast television and encode it over your network. So once it's on the network encoded, the Apple TV can just basically tune into it. And this basically gives you a single interface on your TV for everything. I mean, you could really cut the cord with this, because you don't need to actually leave the Apple TV to watch TV. You could watch Hulu and
huge.
Netflix. Yeah. I think this is really smart on their part, and I think it may, show kind of where things really should be going, because the interface is killer. Like, have you taken a look at some of the screenshots?
Yeah, I'm seeing some of the screenshots go by now. I'm just checking out their website kind of as you're talking. It looks like they did a really nice job. I'm not a huge fan of the little app icon on the home screen. That's a little old school looking, but overall the interface looks really cool. This looks like a very compelling offering.
Oh, I scrolled down all the way to the bottom, of course, because I wasn't really paying attention, but there's actually a 3-tuner version of this thing that you can put a cable card in and get encrypted US cable channels, like QAM channels over. So it basically turns your system not into a TiVo, because it's obviously not going to record anything, but it turns it into a full cable box if you didn't want to fully cut the cord, but kind of wanted just a little bit of the cord left.
Yeah. Just like a stub.
Yeah, like a nub, yeah.
Well, no, I think this is great. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Tableau, which we had on a while back, and that would be an episode you could go search for and find if you were interested in learning more about them. Similar concept to where kind of a built-in tuner, and it takes those channels and encodes them and puts them up on your network. We had them on before there was this new Apple TV, and so that was really kind of the game changer here, is now, app development is open on the Apple TV. And I know at the time, for instance, Tableau, I believe at least, had a integration with Roku, but not Apple TV. So who knows, maybe we'll see something from them on the Apple TV front. But I think this really does speak to, like you were saying, and I don't want to sound like I'm overstating it, but I do think that products like this speak to the future of TV, where we're not going to think of content in the same sort of silos that we currently do. And what I mean by that is, right now, if I want to watch cable, I sit down and I turn on the DirecTV box on my universal remote, and everything kind of switches inputs, and then it just happens. And then if I want to switch over to Netflix, I know, okay, well, I get to Netflix through the Apple TV, so let me go over there and open the Netflix app, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that, what we're working towards and what we can't get to soon enough, in my opinion, is where some of those walls break down. And it really becomes truly about what you want to watch and what you're able to sit down and just, you're in the mood to watch. We'll get contextual kind of suggestions based on the time of day and maybe patterns of what we typically watch, which, we're seeing a little bit of already. But just getting it all into one interface, that input zero concept that I've talked about before. And I think this is kind of a product that speaks to that. And it's really exciting to me. I think it's kind of cool when we can stop thinking about content in these sort of, okay, well, that's my linear TV subscription, and this is my Netflix, and this is my Hulu, and it all just sort of comes together into a more seamless experience where we just get to sit down and watch what we want to watch.
Yeah, I was just looking over at Tableau. Just because you mentioned them, I was kind of curious as to where they were. They do have that Roku integration, but the Tableau, I guess the biggest differentiator here is that Tableau actually allows you, or has the provisions in there for you to actually record what is playing and turn itself into a DVR. So which this doesn't have maybe yet. but I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I get excited about when a company like Apple or Control4 or Nest or anybody opens up an API to the public. You get innovation like this. This is great.
Exactly.
So I'm super excited about this. Maybe one day I'll buy an Apple TV. and
right.
and download this app.
Yeah, I told myself that after the holidays that might be my gift to myself, and maybe this will push me over the edge, because I'd love to just experiment with this. I think it's a really great idea. Anyone interested in learning more about that Tableau and how that compares, I just looked as you were talking, Seth, and that was episode 57. So HomeTech.fm/57 will get you there. And that was a great conversation, and also I think a really interesting product and one to take a look at.
Yeah, definitely. So the 57. So now we're at what, 90?
Yeah, we're getting close. Getting 96. Close to 100, 96.
Oh, we're going to have to announce something big.
Yeah. We are. You got anything in mind?
Yeah, maybe a little partnership with somebody. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it maybe next week.
Yes, definitely. Tune in for that. We did want to tease that this week, and we're not going to let it out of the bag entirely, but definitely want to let longtime listeners of our show and new listeners as well let you know to tune in next week. We're going to be announcing a new partnership, something that we're very excited about, and really looking forward to working together and seeing how it develops. So be sure to tune in next week, and we'll tell you all about it. Yep, absolutely. And last week I did tease something big. My little project that I was working on. And you're finally on record, so I know that the months on end of waiting on pins and needles have got to come to an end soon. Right. Well, as you know, I've been asking you for some personal information. Wi-Fi passwords. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Things you probably shouldn't be giving out. Static IPs. Yep. So I should have this thing completely put together. I had to go. I had everything kind of working last night and realized that I was missing hot glue, essentially. So I had to run to the craft store today and get some hot glue. Oh boy. I got to be honest with you. I have no clue. I really don't. I couldn't even fathom a guess. Well, it should be fun. It will definitely be fun. So hopefully you'll have some tracking number this week, and I'll send it over to you, and we may be able to do an unboxing next week. Hashtag what's in the box. What's in the box? Which, like I said, could be read a number of ways. So anyways, I'm looking forward to getting that. I think that'll be fun. And like I said, I will make it my solemn promise to you right now, Seth, that I will not open it until you and I are sitting down and recording together. Sounds that could be a blessing or a curse, because I've had some problems setting it up, but that's the deal when it gets to the Internet of Things. We know that very well. Yeah, yes. That happens. Indeed. Well, kind of a short episode this week. We're going to keep it short and sweet. We've got a lot of big stuff coming up. Again, tune in next week for a big announcement that we're going to make. We're super excited about. And also, we're going to be gearing up here pretty soon for ISE. And we'll probably be talking a little bit about that next week, because that's coming right up. And I know that is a huge show, and one that I am massively envious of anybody going to. I think that would be... it's definitely on my bucket list, and I think it would be a lot of fun to be gearing up and heading out there for that show and talk about drinking from a fire hose. That one is kind of the granddaddy there, because it's it is literally the partnership between CEDIA and Infocom. So you've got just a massive show floor there, I'm sure, and quite a lot of ground to cover. Yeah, that's what excites me the most about this show, is that it's two of our largest shows here in the States combined, and then they're showing the European technologies. I mean, not just the US companies like Control4 and Crestron will be there, and the European like keypads and KNX controllers and all sorts of fun stuff is there, and that you and I don't get to see every day. Like this stuff is out there and exists. I happened to walk on a very large Luxone project the other day. You mentioned that to me. Yeah, that's interesting. So hopefully I'll be walking back onto the project. I'm not too sure, but I thought it was very interesting to see some 230 volt product sitting around the house, and maybe there's something there to it, and I can get back out there and take a look and see how it works.
But I was really excited to actually see a project designed, and it looked like well done. Everything was set up and kind of looked like it may have been working or may not have been working. I don't know yet. The house is nowhere near done. So, but it all looked really cool, and it looked like a lot of the pictures that we get from the the hashtag live install guys. It looked like that. So I was like really excited to see it in the States here. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if anybody's listening who's planning to attend ISE, shoot us a tweet at HomeTech Podcast and let us know what you're going to be looking for, and maybe we'll give you a shout out on the next show. We'd love to hear you. So once again, that's at HomeTech Podcast. Want to send a huge thanks to everybody listening. We really appreciate your listenership, and want to plug right here and just make a quick mention that HomeTech is a proud member of the Technology.fm family of podcasts. That's a great site. If you're into our show and you want to head over there and check out some other shows that you might enjoy, including the Smart Home Show and Home On. Those are two great podcasts. Also, just want to make quick mention, again, we're really trying to ramp up our email list this year, and we want to get people enticed to sign up for that, get your weekly show reminders, and also going to be doing some exclusive writing on our email list this year. And so signing up for that will get you access to some of that writing, again, that we're not going to be putting up on the website or anything. That's just going to be kind of exclusive thoughts and opinions and takes on some of the news stories that'll be just for our email subscribers. So if you're interested in getting that, we'd love to have you. Hop over to HomeTech.fm and just look on the right-hand side, and the sign-up form is right there.
Yep. And if you're interested in reaching out to us and chatting with us, or submitting a tweet shout-out, as we like to call them, you can reach out to us on Twitter there at HomeTech Podcast. Or you can head over to the website at HomeTech.fm/feedback. There's a little form that you can do on there that emails Jason and I directly. You can also support the show at the same website, HomeTech.fm/support. There's a couple of little options there for you to support the show, either by ranking us in iTunes or heading over onto our Patreon page and supporting us with as little as $1 a month. And we definitely want to thank everybody who has supported us for the last year, Jason, like the whole year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing.
Pretty wild. Yep. Yeah. We really do appreciate it. It means a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you, everyone, for supporting us both ways on iTunes reviews and Patreon. We really do appreciate it.
All right. Sounds good, Seth. Well, I'll let you go, and I'll look forward to catching up with you next week.
Sounds good, Jason. Have a good week.